Good morning. Good morning. This is Wednesday morning. What is it, the August the 7th? I'm going to be doing some Facebook Lives here. I realize that this first video I might make some mistakes. What I want you to do is feel free to make comments. Feel free to engage with me. I would love to engage with you. This is the first one, so I'm going to be making some mistakes. I'm going to be doing some kind of weird things. But what I wanted to do was introduce you to the things that make the biggest difference I've found with my clients. And there are certain concepts that over and over again I get asked, Mark, how do you do this? You're explaining this concept. How do I do this better? How do I do it in a different way? That's what I'm going to be trying to explain, or that's what I'm going to be explaining in these videos. I'm going to be doing these once weekly, every Wednesday morning at 7 a.m. here where I'm at. It'll be 9 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. And we'll get going here. I want to give everyone just a minute to kind of engage and to come in, but let's get going here right away. Know that I'm going to be standing up, sitting down. I'm going to be doing a whole bunch of things. And what I want you to do is please interact with me. So I'll ask a few questions every once in a while. Feel free to write in your questions or anything that I'm talking about, and we will get to it, okay? For today, what I want to talk about is how to reverse engineer your goals. Goals are this really odd concept because our whole culture believes they're important. Our whole culture talks about them as if they're the bee's knees, they're everything, and yet so few people do them and so few people know how to do them. And I actually believe most people, the reason they don't write out their goals, the reason they don't engage with their goals is because they don't know how to do it practically. There are many ways to do this, and I'm giving you one method right now to kind of supercharge your goals. This method is going to be, you're going to be able to utilize it in order to take plans and to take actions in different ways. So many people, when they're writing out their goals, when they're thinking about their goals, when they're engaging with their goals, they don't know how to take action. So it's this crazy idea out there, but it's not something that actually makes a difference in their life, in their actions, in their motivation. And that's what goals are for. Goals are to motivate you. Goals are to push you forward, to take action. So I'm going to give you a system today to make huge goals small so that you can actually engage with them and go, oh, wait a second, I understand how this works. I can take action on them. And then secondly, just a really practical plan of action for those. Okay, so I'm going to throw this out, get my chair out of the way, and I will get going here. So what is reverse engineering? How does reverse engineering work? The concept of reverse engineering is basically taking something that is difficult or complex and making it simple. Going from the end to now. So instead of going, oh, what do I need to do next? What do I need to do next? The problem with that is we often get off track. Whereas goals need to be like a compass setting. They need to point us in the direction exactly where we're going all the time. And if they're pointing us straight forward, what happens is we're able, if we get off track, we're able to come back in alignment with them. And that's the point of what I'm going to be talking about today, all right? So the focus is, how can we have this compass setting, this goal, that we work backwards from so that every time we're a little bit off, we can re-engage with it. And as we're even thinking about our plan, we can do that. One of the problems that I see with my clients is that often they've got this goal, but they don't think about it a lot. They don't come back to it all the time. So they have all these plans and they chase after these shiny objects sometimes in business rather than staying focused. So that's what today is all about, okay? Is staying focused. The way I reverse engineer my goals is I start off by listing some of the big goals I have. So for example, I turn 50 years old in 2028, October 10th, 2028. I think about this every single morning. So October 10th, 2028, I turn 50 years old. So I have a goal for 2028, okay? And so I listed there, I actually put down October 10th, 2028, and then beside it, I write down my goal, okay? So it's this is my goal for 2028. It's a net worth, it's a business net worth, okay? And then I come back, I've got some other goals of 2028, for example, some personal goals, so you can make it personal. And then what I do is I back that up. Now, for people who are starting this, what I'd recommend is you don't start off with things 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road. Okay, I've actually had this goal since I was 20 years old. So it's been happening for 20 years, and I'm continuing to work towards it. Okay, it's changed in slight slight variations, but mostly it stayed exactly the same. So what you want to do if you're starting off is make it 2 years out, 3 years out, maximum. If you're new to this, is make it 5 years out. Okay, so you can put down something like 2024, and you can. This is what I do. Another tip: I sometimes, or I always use my birth date as the year end and the year start. This is a really important thing because we have been trained to not chase after goals if they're New Year's resolutions. So if they're New Year's resolutions, we're not going to chase them down, most likely because we've been taught by our culture, you set New Year's resolutions and you forget about them by February 15th. By the time Valentine's Day rolls around, we don't even know what we've said anymore, right? Most of the time. So what I do is I switch that up for my brain. So write out some of your big goals. You don't need a lot here. Have like 3 to 5 max. Then under this, you can just have a line, and what you're going to do is come up with your plan for the next year. This is where reverse engineering makes all the difference. This is where it comes in handy. This is where it becomes super useful for you. What you're going to do is you're going to say 1 year. So 2020 plan. Okay? And let's say it's August 7th today, so you could write down August 7th. My birthday is October 10th, so I write down my birthday October 10th. But you can write down whatever you want. The first time you do this, you can set an arbitrary date. It doesn't have to be necessarily a year out, okay? And under the plan, what you're going to write down, you're going to review all the areas of your life where you have goals in. So for example, I have physical health goals. I have emotional and mental health goals. I have growth and development goals in business. I have business goals. I have net worth goals. I've got income goals. I've got family and relationship goals. I have goals in all these different areas. I've got giving goals, self-transcendence goals. So what you want to do is think about all the things that you want. You didn't list all of these here. You just have the big goals here. But here you list down everything that you want to accomplish in the year and how you're going to get there. For example, I write down, 2 weekend getaways with my wife, okay? So I write down 2 weekend getaways with my wife there. I write down usually a few backcountry trips with my kids. I write down a few things with relationships. Then I focus on finances, and I focus on personal growth and development. I focus on business growth and development. I focus on all these different areas, and I simply list. This is just like a massive list of things that I want to get done this year. And this seems really big when you first write it down. Take your time to write down everything that you want, okay? Make sure you include rest. Make sure you include relationships. Make sure you include physical health, okay? For example, my goal typically with physical health is to hit certain metrics or to work out a certain amount of times in the year. So right here, I'll say consistent workouts. That's what I write down here, okay? I'll just write down a whole bunch of stuff. Now, keep in mind that the stuff you put up top needs to be, it needs to be very specific and measurable. You need an exact dollar figure, okay? If you're setting a personal goal, you need to make it very specific and measurable. That's very important for goals. When you're coming up with the plan, some of them can be less measurable. For example, a routine, a consistent workout routine, that's not specific. We will make it specific later on. Okay, this is basically what this is. The year is a brainstorm of what you want to get done and some ideas on how you're going to do it. And this is what you always ask yourself. You always ask yourself, what can I do this year in order to get me closer to where I want to be long term? What can I do this year in order to get closer to where I want to be long term? It's a very important concept. Next, what I do is I actually have quarterly goals, okay? So for me, I start in October. So October to December is my first quarter, okay? And what I'm going to be doing here, and this is the reverse engineering, this is where it becomes smaller. It takes the big stuff and it becomes smaller. You take everything in here on this list, and you look here and say, what fits over the next few months? So for example, if I'm taking 2 weekend retreats with my wife, one thing I'm going to do is usually one falls in the fall. Okay, so I write that down and I make sure it's booked in. Okay, actually with those things often I book them in. There are things that I book in, certain events that I'm doing 2 years, 3 years out. You've got to make sure it works for your schedule. Make sure that the most important stuff is booked out as far as possible. All right. Then, when you've got this idea and you're starting to write this out, you ask yourself consistently, what can I do in the next 3 months? What can I do in the next quarter that will take care of these, so to make sure I've got all these. So for example, I've got, usually for personal growth and development or business growth and development, I've got 30 books. Usually that's the amount of books I try to read through completely in a year and study and really get into, okay? So it's 30 books, that's really easy. If you're breaking it up into quarters, that's about 7.5 per month, right? Or per quarter. What it is it's 2.5 per month. So right now, I write down 8 books. Okay. Also, usually I pick a theme. This quarter, what is my theme? What is the theme from what I want to learn, what I want to grow in? So sometimes it's marketing. I want to get better at marketing for this month. Sometimes it's sales. I want to get far better at sales. I usually choose a theme, and then those are the books that I'm reading. That's what I'm doing for this quarter to really focus in. I never choose a theme shorter than a quarter. Okay. Usually the quarter is a really unique time frame. 3 to 6 months is a really unique time frame because it allows you to really focus on something and really get into something. If you focus on something for a week, sales for a week, you're not going to do anything worthwhile, nothing of value. So what you need to do is make sure that you're engaging with people, engaging with yourself, and make sure that you're learning on a longer term basis. It's not going to be a quarter, it's not going to be a week or a month. It's going to be at least 3 months. Sometimes I make my theme 6 months. Sometimes I make my theme the entire year. Okay? Often I'll do that. I want to get better. I want to become a master of marketing. I've done this in the past, and that's when I really focus on it for the year. All right. For the quarter, you're asking yourself, and you're knocking these things off, and you're going through every list, and you're saying, what are 1 to 3 things I can do? What are 1 to 3 things I can do that will, this quarter, that will allow me to reach my yearly plan? It'll allow me to get through all of this stuff. And same thing, when I went to my plan, I was always asking myself, what are 1 to 3 things I can do to hit my long-term goals? Asking yourself 1 to 3 things is a very important part of this. When you have more than 3 things on your mind, they tend to escape us. We've got a very poor short-term memory. Our short-term memory, the average, is about 7 things we can keep in our short-term memory. So if I give you 7 numbers, that's about the limit for most people. If I give you 9 numbers, you won't remember them unless you're really incredible. There are a few people on the planet who can do more than 8, okay? So you want to keep things succinct, you want to keep things actionable, you want to focus in on the basic things, the one thing that you need to do, not the 16.5 things that you want to do, okay? 1 to 3 things I'm going to write down. Family, I'm going to write down finances, I'm going to write down business. What are the things that I want to accomplish, okay? After I do that, then, and I'm going to turn the page, usually I do this underneath this, all right? And I'm going to give you a few other things that I do. Underneath this, usually what I have is my month. So let's say it's October, or let's use this month, okay? It's August. In August, I write down all the basic things that I want to do. Now, these aren't the appointments that I want to take. I'm not focusing on the minutia. I'm focusing on the overall stuff that I want to accomplish this month, okay? So for example, maybe in August, I take my business speaking event, and I'm doing my backcountry trip with the kids, whatever it is. You're writing all these things down. You're writing down, I'm going to read which 2 books or 3 books am I going to read? Okay, you're actually now going to write down which books they are. All right, I can tell you always which books I'm focused on. Why? Because I've got them written down somewhere. So I can come back to it, and my mind is always on this for the month because I've reviewed it. And I'll talk about how often we review this in a little while. Okay, so you've got your plan here. You're writing things down, and this whole process, the first time you do it, should take a few hours at least. Think about this. Spend time thinking about this. For a second, I'm going to help you understand this. If you spend 8 hours at business, or you have a few hours listening to the radio, or you watch TV for an hour every day, that's an hour of influence for your mind. what this is doing, what this process is doing, the most useful part of this process is that you are engaging with what you want in life, what you want to chase after in life. And if you focus in on what you want and the plan that you're going to take to get there, if you focus on that more of the time, you will move towards that direction. If you spend all your time thinking about McDonald's commercials and some Netflix show, that's where your mind goes. Our mind needs to be fed, and this is your way of feeding it. So for August, you write down, you go look at the quarter, everything you wrote down in the quarter, and you go, what are some of the things that I can tackle this month? And what are the things that I'm going to wait for the next couple of months? And you write down, you break some of them up into thirds, you put other things in, you say, hey, listen, so I'm going to use an example, okay? Let's say one of your goals is to blow up your real estate portfolio. You want to grow more in your real estate portfolio. Or let's say net worth is the big one, okay? So maybe in your plan, you write down that you want to purchase at least 3 properties. Now maybe your net worth, let's say your net worth, you want to be at $50 million. This is too big for most people. I'm going to pick something smaller. So let's say your goal for retirement is $5 million. Your goal for retirement is $5 million. Now what you can do is you can say, okay, well, that's 5 years out, that's 10 years out, whatever it is. So what I'm going to do for this year is just make sure I can purchase 3 properties. Or maybe if you've never purchased a property before, a rental property, you say, I'm going to purchase 1 property this year. I just want to prepare to get 1. Because if I get 1, even though it's not 1/5, if I've got 5-year goal, it's not 1/5 of that, that's okay. Doing 1 really well will prepare me far better. And momentum goes like this, right? You typically you start off slow, and as you build momentum, you can skyrocket. So in the 5th year, you're buying a whole bunch of properties. The 1st year, start off small, that's okay. So let's say you've got 1, let's say you've got 1 property here. Well, now, in your quarter, maybe what you say is, okay, if I want to purchase 1 property this year, what do I need to do to prepare myself so that I have a property? Because property probably falls into that last quarter. I mean, if it happens here, that's fine. But really, the goal is to purchase 1 throughout this year, and it's to prepare yourself in all these ways so that you can purchase that property. So, for example, maybe the 1st quarter, you simply understand how other people have built their portfolios. Maybe you read a whole bunch of books. Maybe that's your study time. Maybe it's you find 1 coach or 1 mentor that can help you with purchasing properties. Okay, if that's the case, if that's your quarter, is starting in with a coaching session, or starting in with coaching of some kind, learning as much as you can. Then for August, what you can do is you can write down find or research and hire a coach. Start in on the coaching, okay? You're always breaking it down a little bit smaller. Next, under August, what you're going to do is have your weeks, okay? You can have week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4. You're going to write those down, and even here, what I will do is break it down even smaller. So now, under week 1, I say spend 30 minutes researching the best coach for Canadian real estate or US real estate or real estate in Guatemala or whatever you want, okay? You're gonna spend a certain amount of time. And then week 2, maybe you're going to interview 3 people. And then maybe week 3 or week 4, you're going to hire somebody, okay? That's it. Now, what this does, this is fantastic the way it works. What this does is you've taken a goal of $5 million of net worth, which seems insurmountable for most people. Most people go, $5 million, that's ridiculous, that's way too much money. Well, legitimately, it takes at least a few $1,000,000 to retire in comfort for most people, okay? You don't want to be living on welfare. You don't want to trust the government to take care of you in your old age, because it's not going to take care of you completely, okay? Now, by the way, I'm going to take a small break here. I want you to write down any questions you have as I'm going through this. If you want me to use a certain example, if you want me to help you with how it works for your individual situation, send me in a question. I'd be happy to cover that. Okay. What this does is you've got this huge goal of $5 million in net worth. And you've broken it down to now, for this week, all you need to do is a little bit of research. All you need to do is research. The big problem with procrastination, most of the problem with procrastination, is that things are so scary, things are so emotionally involved that we don't take action. Things are so big, we don't take action now. $5 million, that's too scary for me. I don't understand how it will work, so I'm not going to take action today. What this does is it breaks everything down and makes it small. Okay? Breaks everything down and makes it small. So here's something you can do. I'll give you an example. So for example, let's say one of your long-term goals is family health. Actually, you know what? I'm going to sit down here. Let's say one of your goals is family health or relationships. Let's say one of your goals is relationships. And let's say in 5 years, so I'll use an example for myself. My kids are 10 and 8 years old right now. So in 5 years, they're going to be 15 and 13 years old. What kind of relationship do I want with them? How much time do I spend with them? Well, what I can do is maybe for my big goal, it's difficult to measure this. It's really difficult to measure this. But let's say I've got a strong relationship where my kids come to me and we have discussions all the time that I'm an active part of their life. Okay? I know it's a little bit more difficult. Ask me if you want more help on this, let me know, okay? But what you want to do is say, yeah, relationships are important to me. So in the next year, what you do is you say, I'm going to make a consistent effort to spend consistent time with my kids. All right? And the reason I'm using this example is it's a difficult example. So I'm going to say, in the next year, I'm going to spend lots of time with my kids. For the quarter, maybe what I do is I say, I'm going to get to know each of my kids in a different way this quarter. And maybe I think I know my kids. I spend lots of time with my kids, and that's true. But maybe I say I want to get to know my kids' dreams. I want to get to know some of their desires. I want to get to know what some of their gifts are and what some of their plans are for the future. They might not have it at 10 and 8 years old, but they think about it. And because they think about it, and if I ask them great questions, that will help. So maybe my goal for the next month is become really good at asking questions of my kids, or for the next quarter. That's maybe my theme for the next quarter, is to get good at asking questions of my kids. And in the next month, I plan it out and I say, okay, every second week I'm going to spend a morning or a breakfast or a lunch with my daughter. Every second week I'm going to spend it with my son. That starts to become a plan. And then I break it down even smaller and I actually book it in. I book it into my schedule. I tell them about it. We make a deal about it. And I write down, when I do this, I'm going to shut off my phone. I'm going to shut off I've got an Apple Watch. Maybe I'm going to take it off or whatever. I'm going to be completely focused. I'm not going to be distracted in any way, shape, or form so that I can really focus on my kids. Okay? If that's the case, now you've taken something big that's small, that you've broken down into a small way. I'm going to give you another example. What about physical health? If you've got a physical health goal, the key then is to, again, maybe you've got a big goal where you want to break it down into maybe routine. So your year plan goes, I want to have a routine workout session for your month. By the time you get down to your month, maybe you set your goal as, I want to do some sort of physical exercise, let's say 5 days out of every 7. And some of those are stretch days. They're not all hard workouts or whatever you choose. Okay, this is up to you. Your goals, not my goals. For my goals, I want to burn an extra 500 calories. This is legitimately my goal. An extra 500 calories every day, every single day, which doesn't take a crazy amount, but it does take me being active. I need to walk around. I need to exercise of some kind. So sometimes I do hard workouts. Sometimes I do stretching workouts, whatever it is, but I make sure that I get them in. So now over 30 days, I go, okay, so out of 4 weeks, 28 days it's longer usually for a month, but I'll go easy on myself and say, if I'm working out 7 out of 7, or let's say 5 out of 7, then you can just say, okay, listen, if I do 20 days this month, that's a successful month. And then mark it down, okay? Have some kind of productive app. So I've got an app on my phone that allows me to measure my habits. So every time I do something, I just mark it off. This morning in my routine, I marked it off. And that's all you need to do. Okay, I've been going on about this. One thing I promise is how I actually do this. So I don't do it on a chart like this. What I do is I make sure that I put all my thoughts in the computer. So and you can write it out by hand. Writing out by hand is better than the computer, by the way. But I write it out on the computer, and I get my thoughts. Then I organize them into my year. So that's all on the computer. And then what I often do is I will take this easel, and I will write down for the quarter all the things that I want to accomplish. And then I've got a bunch of tools to help myself. Okay. One tool I utilize is I've got a 120-day planner. So it looks over at the next 4 months, that's more than a quarter, to really focus me in on what are the things happening long term. So now I can say, oh, wait a second, if I've got a business trip for a week, I'm not going to be able to get anything done that week in this other area of my life. So, or for my business. So I'm going to make sure I get it done before that. So that helps, having visual aids. Another thing that I've got is on my door here, I've got my week. And I write down everything that I'm going to be doing that week. I write down my actual schedule. Every Monday morning, I write down Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, because I often work Saturdays. Sundays are my family day. And I write down my schedule, what I'm doing that day. And I write down all the things that I want to accomplish that week. I break it down into each day and make sure that I'm getting something out of each day. When I've done that, what starts to happen is I'm so engaged with my goals. I know every day I can just come in, I can look at things, and then also I take a red marker, I take this red marker, and I make sure that I check off. Every time that I do something, I check it off, which then builds momentum for myself. Okay, let's review this really quickly, and then I'll take off here, okay? What the focus of this entire discussion this morning was how do you take these far out there concepts, these difficult concepts, and make them relevant for today? How do I take something big, like $5 million net worth or whatever it is for you, or hitting a certain weight, or being able to do a certain amount of push-ups, or reaching certain business goals, or hiring a certain amount of employees, or making so much, or selling your business for a certain amount, whatever it is, and breaking them down into smaller things that are manageable. Because $5 million, $10 million, or $50 million, those numbers are often too big for people to actually chase after on a daily basis. So once you break them down, you've got something that you know this week. If you do something this week, you will be well on your way towards those goals. That's one thing, okay? Another thing for this is it focuses you constantly on what you want rather than what the world wants for you. So instead of listening to news media, instead of being completely focused on what other people are telling you should think about, instead of the average person gets around 2,500 advertisements a day. They're marketed to about 2,500 times a day. It's the average person. That's t-shirt logos and billboards and radio ads and TV ads and all this other stuff that we are inundated with. Facebook is crazy for this, right? We get tons of stuff from Facebook. So what we want to do is we want to make sure we are controlling our thoughts. I do this in a number of ways. One, before 7 a.m., I don't have my phone on, usually. Every once in a while, I'll turn it on if I've got a specific thing I need to do. But before 7 a.m., before I'm in my office, usually it's off. 4:45 to 7 is my time to focus on myself and my goals. And so I review my goals. I go through all this stuff. I look it over to go, what's happening? And then I've got a routine. I promised I'd give you my routine as well. So once a year, I go through all of this, what you saw behind me, okay? I go through all of this once. Every quarter, I go and look at my one-year plan and schedule out my next quarter and my next month and my next week, okay? Every month, I go through the month, and every week I go through the week. And then every day I review my day. That's it. And this is how long it takes me. Some people go, well, Mark, that's so oner. Like there's so much going on there. The year takes me a few hours. If you say you don't have a few hours to engage with your goals, you are lying to yourself that you're going to accomplish anything in life. You have to spend a little bit of time thinking about this stuff. Again, plan to fail, fail to plan, right? That's the typical idiom that goes along with this. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. If you're not spending time on it, you're not going to get anything done. Then, so it takes me a few hours, and then my quarter usually takes me, 20 minutes? It takes me 20 minutes to kind of plan it out, rethink it, figure it out, write it out on a board so I've got some visualization. It doesn't take very long, 30 minutes max. Every month, it takes me even less. It takes me about 5 minutes or 10 minutes. And same thing with my week. Every week, it takes me like 5 or 10 minutes. And that's it. Now I've got everything that I need to stay focused. And that's the purpose of goals. Now, really quickly, I want to give you my understanding of what goals are for. Goals are for our own growth. Goals are not to simply hit metrics. Goals are to grow us. So I challenge you to set goals that are a little bit outside of your comfort zone. What I mean by that is choose a goal that is big enough, that's a little bit scary, but small enough that you can wrap your head around it and go, okay, no, I can engage with this. I'll give you an example. If you choose $1 billion, I want to earn $1 billion this year. For most people, that's too great a goal to actually think about in any to conceptualize. So because our brain can't handle it, we just reject it outright. That's what happens in our brains. So you want to choose something that's small enough that you can engage with it, but big enough that it challenges you and terrifies you. It needs to be exciting and a little bit scary at the same time. All right, that's it for today. This is a test. This is what I'm just testing these things out, seeing how I can work them. Know that I've seen some clients on the channel that are coming on the live talk this morning. Feel free, if you've got questions for me, if you want me to cover these, feel free to ask me. I'm happy to cover them. I want to cover the biggest stuff, the biggest things that most people struggle with. If I've got some extra time, I want to add some extra value to you. Enjoy the day. Have a fantastic day. And here's one last thing. If you want more information on this, if you want me to send you, I've got 9 areas of goals that I review every year, okay? If you want those 9 areas, if you want me to send any worksheets or any help to you regarding goals, I've got some videos that I could send to people that I'm happy to give you. Let me know by putting a comment in the comment box, by contacting me through this website, and I'll be happy to engage with you, all right? Enjoy your week.